This is the 40 Days for Life podcast with your host, Sean Carney.
Hello, thank you for joining us today on the 40 Days for Life podcast. I'm Sean Carney, the president of 40 Days for Life, and your host for this podcast, which is dedicated to helping you end abortion where you live. Dirty secrets of Planned Parenthood. That is the topic today. As many of you know, 40 Days for Life is blessed to have our own legal arm, the Institute of Law and Justice. And we were asked by the AG of Missouri, or Missouri, depending on where you come from, to defend them, to defend their great state and their pro-life laws against Planned Parenthood. But today we're going to give you the juicy things that we learned during the trial. And this is going to be a fun and spicy episode of the podcast. And we have our wonderful guest, April Wood, who was the lawyer on this case in Missouri. And is it Missouri or Missouri?
Well, my dad would have said Missouri. I said Missouri.
Well,
So, I mean, you're not wrong either way, but I mean, the old school Missouri.
this was your rebellion. From
It
your
was.
father. That was it. Stopped there. Your dad was a Baptist preacher, right?
He was,
Excellent.
yes.
That's so exciting. And as you know, producer John's, see, we have one of your people on the podcast. This is diversity.
It is diversity.
Can we maybe not have so many Catholics? We'll look into that. So his dad was a Baptist preacher. Your dad was a Baptist preacher.
Yeah.
It's great.
It is great. Yeah, I wish, he passed in 2017, but he would have been in the front row of that courtroom watching. Planned Parenthood was something he and my mother always advocated against, and very pro-life. And so part of what brought me to you, essentially.
Yeah, because you were a prosecutor, elected
was.
prosecutor in Missouri. And Mr. Matt Britton, our general counsel, said, I found somebody and she's feisty. He said, you're a killer in court.
Well,
I didn't know if we were allowed to use that term.
Yes, I think.
Sounds like a compliment.
I think it is, yes. My first boss at a law school said, you were my pit bull at the end of the chain.
Okay.
And so I always took that as a compliment, because I was like, that means that if you unclip the chain, you're probably in trouble.
Well, and you're so nice and pleasant to be around. So it's kind of like, I'm really angry deep down. I just need a courtroom to get it out. So this was a compliment, really, to the Institute of Law and Justice, because, and we've talked about it a lot on the podcast, where we have this weird world where Roe's overturned and half the country runs to sanity and science, and the other half says, what would be cool is if we, turned into psychopaths. And so what happened is great states like Missouri, which has been traditionally one of the most pro-life states in the union.
It has.
They had a trigger law, so abortion was banned, and they had all these great pro-life laws. And so Planned Parenthood sued them, because it's illegal in America to have pro-life laws, as you know.
So they actually initiated a petition, not grassroots, not the voters of Missouri, right? Money backed from institute like Planned Parenthood to change our Constitution even worse, and got it passed, because of course they marketed it as, you're going to protect women who have been raped and sexually assaulted, which those laws already existed in Missouri. So it was an absolute lie in how they marketed it. And people unfortunately fell for it. So then they amended our Constitution, which they're trying to close that gap in Missouri, being able to amend the Constitution from outside sources, outside money. And but they got it done. And then the morning after the amendment passed, within like 12 hours of the election results being certified, they sued the state of Missouri for every pro-life law on the books.
It's unbelievable. And, we're going to get into some of these facts. We've got dirty instruments. We've got, there's a parental discretion is advised on this episode. That's when people really tune in. But it's very, Planned Parenthood is bad, and they act accordingly. It's not good healthcare at all, or healthcare at all. So we'll get into some of that. Ramona Trevino testified as a former Planned Parenthood manager. Dr. Haywood Robinson is a former abortionist. So you really had kind of an arsenal. But it was the AG who reached out and asked you to take the case and defend their great state, swore you in.
Yes.
So that's kind of cool.
It was very cool. I'd been a prosecutor for a long time, but I have to say there was a couple of things that were career highlights for me during this case that came to me because I was with 40 Days for Life. And so being sworn in as an assistant attorney general with the Solicitor General's office, who is the arm of the special litigation, they do the most difficult litigation that the state faces. And so it was really that specialized unit that they invited me to be part of. And that was really incredible on behalf of the unborn.
That's awesome. It's so good. And I was so glad to hear that. And we were praying for you. It was a long trial. And I can't wait to get the result, but it's what we learned during that. And it's funny because we have this top 10 list. And just off the bat, which is just shock to no one, Planned Parenthood used the ACLU counsel.
Oh, yeah, they were their local counsel. Yeah, they were the ones that really signed off on the lawsuit, that spearheaded the lawsuit, that was their local Kansas City. This was based in Jackson County, Missouri, and Kansas City. And they used the ACLU to be essentially their local counsel. And so, yeah, they were kind of in charge.
And they went through, 20 to 25 lawyers, right? During this 2-week trial.
Yeah.
Did that cost them a lot of money?
I can't imagine it didn't cost them an arm and a leg. They weren't there pro bono. And, what was interesting is we get there that first day, and we had seen they were rotating lawyers through as we were going through different depositions and different phases of the case. And we get there, and there's just this packed side of the courtroom, and it's people all, the first 2 or 3 rows are like people with laptops, paralegals, staff, lawyers. They had an absolute arsenal on their side of the courtroom.
And we had 6 lawyers total.
6 lawyers total. 4 of them were with the Attorney General.
Okay.
And 2 I was one, and then there was another special lawyer that came in as well that had worked with she'd actually been with the AG's office previous. So that's, really I was the one that came in that was not at all affiliated with the AG's office to help assist them. Yeah,
it's really really amazing. I want to get to I know we're going to go to this one, but I want to get to the 4th one on our list. On the 3rd day of trial, Planned Parenthood had to admit to the judge that they didn't know who had the burden of proof in the case. How does that happen?
I don't know. It was really remarkable. I was kind of sitting there thinking, am I really hearing what they're saying? And just to give the listeners perspective, this was a case that took over a year to get to the courtroom. So the actual election happened in November.
Okay. Of 24.
24. And then we went through a year of preparing, and then the trial was in January of 26th. And so they tell the judge, we're still trying to figure that out. And she said, I thought the judge was pretty good here. She said, I would have thought by this stage, you could tell me that.
This stage being the first day of the trial. I mean, it's really unbelievable. Yeah. And this law is unconstitutional. Who has the burden of proof? I don't know. Somebody.
Somebody does. I mean, you should know that before you file the paperwork. I mean, that's good lawyering, right? That's when you have to know what your burden is to make all of these allegations. And their petition was pretty lengthy. So it was incredible. And with 25 lawyers sitting there from all over the country that they'd hired guns, and no one could tell the judge who had the burden of proof. It was unreal.
It's really unbelievable. And people should know one of the things, it's hard to figure this out, but you basically discovered just how dysfunctional they are. And I don't know if it's illegal. We don't have to get into that. But Planned Parenthood is a 501c3.
Correct.
Then they have a 501c4.
Correct.
And it's the same board. It's the same staff. It's the same but they don't get involved in politics. And they it's funny because we're the only national pro-life organization that doesn't have a C4, right? And as you know this, there's certain things we can comment on, right, and we, I think, manage that pretty well. But the funny thing about the Trump administration is they like that about us. Because we clearly have no agenda, but we are boots on the ground, and they want to know what people are thinking and policy. And it's been really helpful with abortion pills because we're obviously
Yeah.
trying to get them to do more, but they trust us because we're not a 501c4.
Right.
Planned Parenthood just takes all that as like, yeah, we're going to do whatever we want. That may be illegal. We'll get to it later.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that was one of the most interesting parts as far as, and I'm talking legality, not from a moral standpoint,
Sure.
right? But just to see how they have this whole web and network of organizations and the way they set it up, very tactical, very planned, but at the same time, the fact that they weren't better organized by the first day of trial was surprising because they spend a lot of time convincing themselves, well, this 501c4 is separate from our C3. That's why we can do political act. And I'm like, but y'all weren't ready for trial. It was
Right.
very interesting to see.
And I have to tell you, it's just not very common. I mean, I have been very impressed with Planned Parenthood lawyers over the years, and unfortunately have had a lot of contact with them. But, you know, the first time I was threatened with a lawsuit was 2005 or 6. 40 Days for Life didn't exist yet, but I was running ads from this poor girl. We had permission to do it, who died through RU46. Holly Patterson is the first death of RU46 in San Francisco, and her parents went on this great tirade about, they didn't even know she took the pills, right? And their daughter died. So I was running ads, and I also had 10 reasons to reject Planned Parenthood and all this stuff, okay, that we were doing just locally. And they sent me this FedEx, and I was like, woo, that paper's fancy. You know, I mean, it had this like long,
good paper.
I'm going to end up in prison, and it was from New York, and it was this full deal. And we ended up writing a letter back saying, you're not going to do anything. We had a good local lawyer who helped us. But they go to court and win. They're very good about that. And the only time I've seen them blunder, I think, was in this and some of the stuff they did in Missouri. And then certainly with the Abby Johnson case, that was so stupid to go after her after she left. I mean, they made her famous.
Right.
They really did by trying to sue her. But typically, they're very sophisticated. They are very aggressive. And when I first heard this, that it was like day one, and it's like, so what are we doing here? I don't know.
I'll figure it out
Yeah,
on the way.
we'll do it on the fly. That's just not like them, particularly when there's a lot at stake in Missouri.
Right.
I mean, they had, big Planned Parenthoods. It's a big state. It's a big state to be essentially abortion free.
Right.
And they need this and have a good chance of winning. But that was so wild. Okay, I got to ask you. So I think a lot of pro-lifers dream about doing depositions on Planned Parenthood folks or abortion doctors. So you got to do this. During discovery, you deposed Dr. Selena Sandoval.
Yeah. Yes. Young abortion doctor, young woman who really had an interesting story. Pray for her is the first thing I would say. As you can see there, I've included a few pictures, and you can find pretty quickly online if you look at her pictures that she's proud OB-GYN at an abortion rally. And she, as I start deposing her, she talks about, I went to undergrad and med school with the intent to become an abortion doctor because I believe that my hometown deserved quality abortion care.
Very rare, by the way. I've never heard of that.
I had really honestly, we talk about all the time that doctors don't go to med school to become abortionists. They end up there.
Yeah.
Right? They
They
kind
get
of end up
sued.
there.
They have a divorce. They need money. Like,
Right.
it's never the plan.
Correct. This was her plan. She's one of the first. She's what I think is terrifying is that we might see more of. And so I am deposing her, and I don't know if you're getting to the point. I don't know if you want me to get to the point where.
No, get into it.
Okay. And I just want to say, too, it was incredible to have a team praying for me because this was one of the valleys where I am in the valley, right, deposing this abortion doctor, and I am leading her down this path of heartbeat, right? Going back and forth. We're having this kind of, I wouldn't call it banner. She was very pleasant. And so I am leading her towards when does a heartbeat begin? And I can't get her to even agree it's a heartbeat. She says cardiac activity.
Yeah,
She corrects
that's the
me.
new thing.
Right, cardiac activity, Ms. Wood. I'm like, oh, I'm very sorry. So cardiac activity, and
It's not a heartbeat.
exactly, not a heartbeat.
If you can have cardiac activity without a heartbeat, we've really extended the human condition, like long beyond what we think
I
we
know.
can. Yeah.
And really the mental gymnastics, and I could say that throughout this entire podcast. I was just like, I don't know how you get there, but I'm like, okay, yes, doctor. Cardiac activity. Tell me, does that start at 1 day, 2 days, 6 days, 8 days, 6 weeks? She answers right about 8 weeks. And I said, okay, so if you perform an abortion at 10 weeks, is there cardiac activity or a heartbeat? And she's saying, well, she's kind of hem-hawing around, and I press her on this issue, and she leans across the table, looks me dead in the eyes, and says, there's no dispute, it's living. And that was one of those moments where I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
I was just horrified, saddened, angry, all of these things. I was hoping, I don't know what I was hoping for, but that was not it.
And
she knows.
She knows. And
She knows.
And she's dying to say it to you.
Oh, yeah.
She
Leaned in.
She ordered the code red.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
the code red of like, yeah, it's alive and I can kill it.
That's right.
Next question.
Exactly. That is exactly correct. And it was just one of those moments I had to I was like, oh, okay, let me see what I'm doing here. I just was like, wow, you're not even hiding it anymore.
Did you say that? Or
I
you just
did not
thought it?
say that. I thought that because that would have been,
Well, then you're
then I'm being
you want to keep
argumentative.
digging. Yeah, you
right.
wanna keep
I
digging,
want to get
'cause she's
the
opening up
information.
here.
Correct. I want it, that's the other thing that's hard when you're a litigator is in depositions, this is fact finding, right? The more gracious I am, the more conversational I am. I'm giving away some tips here, but then the more likely you are to just start having a conversation with me.
Do you think she was well prepared? How could they possibly allow her to get on the stand and end up saying a comment like that?
So I think she was somewhat prepared. What
Okay.
was interesting is that
Because she's young. She looks like she's 25 years old.
she's older than that, but she is very young.
Okay.
Very young. And to the best of my knowledge, no children of her own.
Okay.
Young married woman that's just started her career. They've elevated her very quickly through the ranks to assistant medical director for Great Plains. That's the Kansas side.
Okay.
And so, I think she was prepared. The state of Kansas was also engaging in some litigation with Planned Parenthood at the same time. She was one of their primary witnesses. So she was getting deposed and going through the process on both sides there, Kansas and Missouri. And so I can't hardly believe she wasn't prepared. I just think they don't care.
Yeah, or just, well, even if she was prepared, she's prepared by the lawyers who don't even know who has the burden of proof. So it's
Right.
it's not exactly.
Yeah, and that's interesting because she writes this whole affidavit, and that's on record in the case. And I, of course, immediately present her with that, and I'm asking her, I'm like, how do you know this? How do you know these things in your affidavit that you're saying about the abortion laws, right? The
Right.
pro-life laws. She's like, well, the lawyers wrote it, I read it, and then I signed it. She didn't even write it. It wasn't even her words.
And she said that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she was pretty open about that. And,
Yeah.
And they really minimized her testimony at trial, I would
I
say.
bet. Yeah.
She was a liability.
Okay, the other thing, it's interesting with, you have heartbeat and then just this whole, is abortion safe? These are things that pro-lifers we hear. These are like trigger words for them. When you question, obviously, the baby has a heartbeat. No, it doesn't.
Right.
Well, abortion's not safe. Yes, it is. And that's just a guarantee, assumption that abortion is safe. So you're questioning that, is abortion safe? And Planned Parenthood's obviously adamant that it is safe. So y'all put 4 women on the stand who were hurt by abortion.
Yeah.
How did that go?
That went really well for us. And I will tell you, so I interviewed 25 women to start with. Those were marathon days as well, where you're just hearing all of this.
To figure out who you wanted to
Correct.
depose.
And who
Okay.
could also withstand the rigors of
Sure.
litigation.
Sure.
Because not everybody could. They wanted to be helpful, but in some cases, I had to do what was better for them.
Right.
And not drag them through the litigation process. So we started with 25 women. I interviewed all 25 women, listened to all their stories, and that's just a snapshot. There's more than 25 women in the state of Missouri. Obviously, those are just the ones that we found. And so 25 women all talking about total life destruction, to mental health, to suicide attempts, to everything across the board that you can think of. Physical, obviously, actual physical complications, near-death complications, all of these things that really refute that abortion is just so safe. There's no, they really want to push the idea. And even in this trial, abortion is safe. We actually counted how many times they said abortion is safe during the closing arguments.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I want to say it was close to like 22 times.
Wow.
That they said abortion is safe in their closing. Their closing is like 25 minutes. I mean,
so when you have a woman on there and you interview her or cross-examine her and she says, yes, I had an abortion. It destroyed me. It was the most painful thing. My life's over. I wanted to kill myself. I ended up, and it's just this litany of horrible things.
Yeah.
What is their counter argument, which is, you got religion, or what would they say? Like, this isn't the abortion's fault. Was that basically their case?
Yeah. So they would go after some other aspect of their life.
Okay.
And I'll tell you about Crystal.
Okay.
She was one of my really great witnesses, and she got on the stand, very brave, talked about how she had an abortion a little later in life, and she was married, facing a divorce, gets pregnant by another man. She has a friend that says, hey, you go over to Planned Parenthood, this will fix all your problems. And she talks about all of the things in her life leading up to that. She was sexually abused by her father as a child. She has to testify in that case. Her father goes to prison. And then she talks about some physical abuse throughout her life, different challenges, dabbled with drugs and alcohol. And so she lived a very difficult life. And, she was, not that this matters, but it showed she had neck tattoos and hand tattoos and just showing her pain, right? And she said, the one thing that ruined my life was my abortion. Wow. So sexual abuse, testifying against her father.
Drugs.
Some dabbling with drugs and alcohol. She became non-functional after she had a late-term abortion. A 24-week abortion, the baby that would most likely survive in this day and age, or have a chance to survive in this day and age. And so she talks about, they say that you're not going to have any side effects. And she said, I had postpartum. She said, I was depressed. And she said, my body, I don't come home with a baby. She already had 3 children. And you don't come home with a baby, and your body's confused. And so they attacked her, saying it wasn't really your abortion that led you to be like completely, she's like PTO, taking care of her kids, on all the committees, going to sporting events, has a marriage. She's doing all of these things.
Highly functional.
Fairly upstanding citizen in the community at that point, and she goes completely off the rails. I mean, just her life just is destroyed. She can't keep a job. She's walking the streets in this little town, walking the streets, completely strung out on drugs and alcohol. And a woman that goes around and helps people says, I know there's a woman walking around town here. And she ends up being affiliated with some abortion recovery. And she said, once I went through abortion recovery, she got her life back. She got her life back on. Once she talked about the grief and the mental health, and it was really incredible because she tells the story, I got pregnant when I was 17, and I went to a pregnancy crisis center, this Crystal. And she said, and I had resources and support. I asked them about abortion. They did discuss it with me when asked. And she said, and I kept my baby. But when my only choice was to walk into Planned Parenthood, I had an abortion. And so they wanted to really attack her on, weren't you really just promiscuous, drinking in the bars, and your sexual assaults? Isn't that really why your life disrupted? You worthless parent, really attacked her from that angle. And
did it
she
come
was
up whether she
steadfast.
supported abortion or not early on in life?
Well, she did when she had her abortion. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
to me, that's hard for Planned Parenthood. It's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm one of you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never would have, she not only goes to Columbia, Missouri for original consult, and they say you're too far along, you're going to have to go to one of our other facilities. She makes a second appointment and goes. She's pro-abort and asked with her first baby, what are my options as far as abortion? So she was abortion-minded at least, and she didn't know the Lord at that point either. So yeah, I mean, she was very abortion-minded, I would say pro-choice through her life until it destroyed her life.
I want you to elaborate on something. Obviously, these women giving the testimony they're just one after another, then they're getting up there and saying, it was because you struck out in T-ball, and that's really the problem.
Right.
But we, as we mentioned, your arsenal, so we're blessed to have, Ramona, who's a former Planned Parenthood manager, and then Haywood, former abortion doctor. And there were two things I want to get your take on, because I've just heard it through the grapevine. We know who the grapevine is.
Yes, we do.
But it's great. It's Haywood is giving a testimony, and the Planned Parenthood lawyer says this to sort of like, is it not true? He's like, you have compared abortion. You have said that abortion is worse than slavery. Okay. He says this to Haywood. And thinking Haywood's going to be like, it's taken out of context. And Haywood's like, yeah, I've said that a lot for a very long time. And the lawyer says, that's ridiculous, right? Because nothing is worse than slavery right now. And so Haywood says, no. You could escape slavery. And I just love that, because the guy was like, what?
Yeah, he's like, what do I do with my hands?
What do I do with my hands?
I don't know.
He's like, I don't know what to do with my hands. And he's like, you could escape slavery. He's like, you weren't going to escape one of my abortions.
Right.
No,
that's right. Yeah. He was, he was just matter of fact and delivered it. And a lot of times there was just no getting around what Haywood had, obviously, right? Again, I was one of you.
Right.
I was one of you, and I'm saying, I'm admitting what really went on and why it's so bad.
Yeah.
That's pretty hard to dispute.
And didn't they have kind of a comical exchange towards the end of the trial? And he said, Counselor, I'm starting to like you. And he said, I like you too, Dr. Robinson. So that's...
I think he was hoping he was bringing him around.
Yeah. Haywood's always trying to convert people.
Yeah.
It's... something I think
the deposition was no different.
It's as if we're all called to do that.
I know, right?
I'm not always trying to convert people. Sometimes I'm just mad about something. And then Ramona's, which is beautiful, and I've heard this before. So she's being deposed, and the Planned Parenthood lawyer says, so if Planned Parenthood's the worst thing ever, and you worked there for all these years, and it's just so terrible, why didn't you leave? And she said, because I was a coward.
Yeah.
And I'm ashamed of that.
Yeah. Just so powerful. And praise be to God, she was able to testify at the trial and give the judge that perspective of, again, not only was I one of you, I was cashing your checks.
Right.
And it was a cowardly thing that I did because I wanted to pay my bills. And I'm here to tell you that I'm going to take responsibility for that and tell you why it's so dangerous, why Planned Parenthood is so dangerous. If you lift these restrictions, you lift these laws, this is what you're going to get. Because you're already getting that with the laws in place. So she was great to really connect those dots and to take ownership of, her story.
When we're going into this, when does Planned Parenthood know that we have Haywood and Ramona? During discovery? Yeah,
so you have to disclose. There's a process you go through, and you have to disclose your witnesses in writing and a little bit about what maybe they're going to say. It might be a fact witness. And then, of course, their team would go out in volume and find anything they could online, in writing, anywhere that they could. Social medias, right? Anything that they could. They did it to the lawyers too, just so you know.
I'm sure.
It was interesting.
Yeah. Because your hidden agenda.
Right.
As part of the
how do we find the,
conspiracy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's why we've had many funny conversations. And I remember I was on this streak. I haven't said it in a few months, where I was saying I wanted a certain AG to sue 40 Days for Life, and I hope he sues us.
I know.
And Matt, who's always like, yeah, let's go get him. He's like, okay, so, you said you wanted him to sue us. And I go, I do. And he goes, no, I know that. It's like, you ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan. Yes, I know that. Like, no, we all heard you. He's like, you can say that, but you maybe don't say it into a camera.
Right, right. Exactly.
And I'm like, but I want him to sue us. He's like, you have made that clear. So I've tried to be a little bit more disciplined, although I do want them to sue us. But that is something I think all of us in the pro-life movement, they're constantly scouring, the internet and looking for, I guess, dirt and stuff like that. We certainly saw it during the Biden administration with the DOJ of just, you were standing there, are you a felon? And it just got out of control. But this is why I am very grateful for the ILJ. And as Matt has said, for a CEO, I'm very pro-lawyer.
Yeah.
The more CEOs I
We
meet.
appreciate that.
I know. I'm in a CEO peer group, and it's like, there's huge companies, and they're like, we don't have lawyers. What are you doing? And
you
I
should
was
have lawyers.
I really am a pro-lawyer. But we need it, and this is the benefit of having built-in counsel.
Right.
And I know you guys are overwhelmed, and you're over delivering, and we have so many things going on. But it's amazing just having in-house counsel keeps you out of so much trouble, because people just don't mess with you, or at least they do one Google and they realize, okay, they've got like 7 attorneys. We're not messing with all this.
Right.
We don't want to do all this, because we have that endurance that if you want to go to trial, like you can spend all your money, and we'll fight back. So it's a huge advantage. I want to get this is just we get it. We say stuff like we're about to say, and it sounds like propaganda. Like if I wanted to make up stuff about Planned Parenthood, this is the stuff I would make up.
You'd want.
The word mold makes me uncomfortable in general, but okay. So the Columbia, Missouri Planned Parenthood was cited in 2018 for using moldy equipment on women for abortions. The vacuum machine had moldy tubing that visible body matter and fluids could be seen, as well as you could see the mold.
Right. And those
It's
were
just disgusting.
It is. And those were public reports with the Department of Health and Senior Services, which was a big part of the testimony and discovery that we disclosed. So these are the reports that are publicly available. And so, we knew that was happening, obviously. This
is the picture.
We'll
put these pictures on the screen. We have the pictures of the moldy equipment that they use for abortions. This is the kind of stuff, like when you're filing a lawsuit, isn't Bill in the corner be like, hey, how are we going to deal with the moldy stuff?
So you know how they dealt with it. And again, you're saying if you were going to promote propaganda, this is what you would say. So Vicky Casey was their witness. She is in a different role now, but she was the manager there in Columbia, Missouri. And so she testifies, they're saying moldy. That was not mold. Those are discolored tubes, and that's what happens over time. So we just replaced the tubes, and it was all fine. They're blowing this out of proportion. Well, the problem that they had, that of course we had in the reports from Department of Health and Senior Services, was that their own employees were like, "Oh yeah, that's mold. Yeah, that." and by the way, that is bodily fluid that's in there. They're like, "Don't say it was me." Multiple
we don't
employees.
like to talk about it at lunch break, but that's mold.
Yeah. And so they really wanted to say that, that state of Missouri, see, this is why we can't have regulations. They're after us. This is a witch hunt. And we didn't have moldy equipment, and they're liars. And look, that's just discoloration. And we replaced the tubes and everything's fine. And even their employers are like, yeah, that's not true.
It would be hard for me to remain professional, because I would have to ask, does the moldy equipment also have cardiac activity, or does it have a heartbeat? How does that work? Yeah, it's really, really bad. And we'll put the photos on there. But that is definitely something.
That's black. That's not I think we've all seen like a plastic that gets yellowed over time that's old. I mean, you can even see that's a smaller photo. But
right.
You can see that is black speckles of mold, and it's so thick that it becomes solid.
It looks like oil.
Yeah.
It looks like oil's going through
Yeah.
it. It's disgusting. And if we know anything about medical tubes, it's that they need to be clear.
They should be clean and
Clean
clear.
and clear.
Yeah.
And gosh. Plus, they got written up about it.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't
Cited.
This isn't the pro-life activists saying this place is dirty.
No, they came in for a routine inspection like they were statutorily required to do and found the moldy equipment. It wasn't because of anyone targeting.
And by the way, just for like a little rant, Columbia, Missouri's are one of our best campaigns. Kathy
Yes,
Fork, who you
she's
know,
fantastic.
She is wonderful, a great leader. All the crap we've had to deal with those lunatics coming out to that location dressed as
yes.
uteruses will be
Yes.
clean. And, you know, all the stuff, the heathens coming out and harassing our sweet volunteers out there, the whole time, those ding-dongs are defending
That's
a
right.
place with mold in the tubes. And "Oh, we will stand up for Planned Parenthood and healthcare and all this garbage. And you're like, they're failing health inspections.
Yeah.
Like, you're not a hero,
No.
okay? This isn't brave.
No.
So it just shows how stupid they look. And I guess of all the locations, I mean, this is a place where they've harassed us constantly.
Yes.
And it's just been a pain in the rear. And Kathy is just moves forward and, you know, is a saint in her own right, plows through and has great fortitude. But when you just look back at these goofballs dressing up in costumes, harassing people out on the sidewalk, you know, praying the rosary or reading scripture, and the whole time, like, go volunteer and clean the tubes.
Right.
That would be helpful for women in
Yeah.
Missouri.
You can imagine if that's the medical equipment, what the rest of the facility
Oh, gosh.
looks like, right?
No, it's a total
And I
mess.
will tell you, so you just prompted my memory on something that I didn't include in this. So Kathy Fork was very helpful, insightful, and she attended the trial every day. Like, she lives what she's really living it. And so we have to have this sidebar at one point with the judge because one of the witnesses is so scared of a few people in the courtroom that come out and are harassing on the sidewalk. And they were talking about Kathy Fork.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm terrified of her. She's
Yeah.
she's like Michael Myers out of Halloween. So threatening.
I know. The judge takes one look at her and she's like, I'm not entertaining this. I'm not. Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
She just was like, these are the people you're talking. It was almost comical because she's like, that's who you're scared of, you know? And Kathy's so gracious and graceful and
Right.
and not at all imposing or threatening, just very kind and sweet. And
It's absolutely
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. It's absurd.
It was funny.
The pro-life people are terrorists argument is pretty much dead. I mean, that ship has sailed, and I think, you know, we have to build gates and we have to have bulletproof, you know, all this stuff, and it's just overblown.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time when it wasn't. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, there were a lot of attacks on
Yeah.
abortionists and clinics and bombings and stuff. But that just doesn't happen anymore, and frankly, it's been reversed.
Right.
You know, and we've had a lot of attacks, as you know, on pro-life volunteers. Okay, so our last item is this testimony by Dr. Stephen Ralston. He's an OBGYN.
He's an OBGYN.
And it's kind of nice because he said, and now we can just believe it, that no baby has ever felt pain during an abortion.
That's right. No baby. And just in case you were concerned about your toddler,
Sure.
your newborn baby, his testimony at trial was that he doesn't believe a child up to 1 year of age feels pain either. So in utero, up to 1 year of age, because they're not conscious beings.
So this is the most insulting thing to women ever, because, and I have some questions for God. Like, I can explain the Nazis to my children. I can't understand why a newborn has to teethe and have that pain.
Yeah.
And that's just a question for God.
Yeah.
Like, why can't our teeth just grow like our fingernails? It just happens.
Right.
But, like, that hurts.
Yeah.
You know, and back in the day, I know my Irish granny, you know, with my parent, they just
Yeah.
rubbed the Jameson whiskey on
That's
the,
right.
on the, you know, back when this country was special. But that, so right off the bat, every mom is going, wait a second, like teething alone, the baby feels the pain. Okay, not to mention whatever they act, you know, something drops, they cry over every little discomfort. How stupid and out of touch can you be to say you have to be 1 year old?
Yeah, to be conscious enough to feel pain. I mean, and I guess, again, that's the mental gymnastics, right? If I'm performing abortions,
Right.
I have to believe that it's pain-free in order to help me sleep at night, I guess.
You got to cross-examine this guy?
I was in the courtroom for it.
You were in the courtroom
Yes.
for, right. But is there any point where we can kill somebody as long as they don't feel the pain, right?
Yeah, he doubled down. Like
That's amazing.
he was not going to come off of that point. He writes a lot of articles about pain and how
But he
babies
obviously-
don't feel it.
If he thinks, because I've never engaged in this argument. I just know there's a pro-death penalty argument that
Right.
says lethal injection is painless. I have a tough time believing that because I think dying probably has some kind
Yeah.
of pain, but maybe it's just knocking you out and it's like going to sleep. I don't know. I've never had that yet with lethal injection. But that's not the point.
Right.
And the point is that the abortion kills the baby. If the baby has pain, obviously it's much worse. I don't know how you kill someone without pain. I mean,
Especially if you're taking the baby out in pieces.
Right.
Right. And it's a conscious, it has pain receptors, has a brain.
Right.
Right.
But it forces what you said, which is to get into the required graphic nature of the abortion.
Right.
You're dismembering the baby. That sounds like it may hurt. You're taking the baby through a vacuum. That probably hurts. And sometimes you're crushing a skull. You're doing all these things. And why they get into this? Why don't they just say it's between a woman and her doctor and move on? Because now we're getting into this, the reality of abortion is great for our side. Mm-hmm. And the baby has pain. No, it doesn't. First off, they should never say that. They should say it's not a baby.
Right. Because and candidly, I was watching the judge's face during his testimony, and that's one thing that I do. If I'm not the actual attorney working, I want to watch the judge's response because it gives me a good indicator sometimes, like, hey, it's time to sit down and be quiet. Or the judge is taking notes, the judge is paying attention. This is problematic for us. We need to figure out how to address it. And when he is testifying to this, she really was great. It was 10 days, all day long, every day, very short breaks. She was a very good steward. She was paying attention, and he's testifying, and he says this, and she's like
rolling her eyes.
She just, I don't want to say rolling her eyes, but I mean, you could just tell she's like, I'm checked out. Like,
yeah.
He lost all credibility. It didn't matter what else he had to say that might have been credible, but to me, and I'm guessing, right? But I've been in a trial or two and litigated a lot and watched a lot of judges, and I was just like, that's great. He just lost all credibility. This judge who has children,
right.
She has children,
right?
Is going, I'm pretty sure when my kids were, I'm pretty sure they felt pain.
And in utero, she has all the ultrasounds. Yeah. I think she leaned back and just said, Dr. Stephen Ralston, a.k.a. Hannibal Lecter. Yeah. He's like doodling.
Yes.
This guy's a nut. Note to self.
Note to self.
The doc was a nut.
I think he lost all credibility, which again is good for us, but his opinion is out there and they're hanging their hat on it.
But there really is, I mean, as cliche as it is, Scripture tells us pride goes before the fall.
Right.
He just can't help himself.
No, that is absolutely right.
It's like the OBGYN looking at you saying, I tell you one thing,
yeah.
And it is a living baby. It's really to our advantage. We need abortion doctors to talk.
Yeah.
They're dying to talk.
They are.
Dying to pat themselves on the back. They are serving women. These other doctors don't have the guts to do abortions, and I do. And they don't get recognition, and Planned Parenthood really does treat them like mercenaries. They don't get invited to the cool cocktail parties. They don't want them out there talking. And the few that do, or the few that have to, when they're deposed, you get these golden nuggets.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very dysfunctional group of people. Yes. Not to state the obvious.
Yeah,
but these are really doctors that are paid to kill.
Right.
And it's just, my father-in-law was an OBGYN for most of his career. And he liked the other OBs and all that. And he always kind of joked, doctors joke about other doctors. And he would laugh about, the real kind of quirky, whacked out guys were like trauma surgeons.
Oh.
Because you kind of have to be, because
I bet.
it's so, it's like a challenge of putting people together. And of course, you have a lot of fatalities, and it's sort of a very dark thing. And the oncologists have kind of their own like weird quirks and stuff. And that is on steroids when it comes to abortionists, because you have left medicine, and they're all a bunch of oddballs. And the more they try to be normal, like this poor girl, you know, who
Dr. Sandoval.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's just it just requires constant justification, and no legitimate medicine does.
Right.
The oncologists don't sit there going, "We need to fight cancer."
Yeah.
They're like, "Yeah, no, I know that cancer."
Yeah. Right.
It's just odd.
Right. Well, and I will tell you that prompted me to remember I deposed Dr. Margaret Baum, who is the chief medical officer for Great Rivers, which is the Illinois side. And also she was in the mobile unit that went to the Democratic National Convention and offered free abortions.
Oh,
yeah.
Fun.
Yes, it was.
I never put that together.
Yes.
She's the DNC
She is.
abortion doctor.
Yes. And so I am really
Her last name is Baum.
Baum.
I'm just gonna make this up. I'm sorry.
I know.
We're gonna be nice, but
It's spelled differently, but it's pronounced
but
Baum.
she drops them for sure.
She does. She was interesting. I was really challenging her during her deposition on the idea that it is considered your first prenatal appointment as a woman when you go in and they determine you're pregnant, right? Mm-hmm. So you go in, maybe you've already confirmed at home most likely, right? But you go in, that's considered your first prenatal visit. So I was saying, well, isn't the standard of care that that's your first prenatal visit? So when women come to see you and they're pregnant, isn't that really a prenatal visit? And she stiffened and she said, I don't offer that kind of care.
Woo! And I'm proud of it.
Yeah. And I said, but isn't the standard of care that when they're pregnant and they come to see you the first time, that is a prenatal visit? And she's like, that is not what I offer them. Wouldn't even agree with me that that's what the standard of care is.
Every woman knows.
Right.
We're off and running.
Yes.
And obviously it's 99% of the time a positive.
Right.
Like, you're
Right.
okay, let's
Right.
get the schedule out.
Yes.
We're having a baby and all that
Yes.
kind of fun stuff.
Absolutely.
And
No,
for her to stiffen up.
I would refer them on if they were not going to continue care with me.
Do you get asked to attend a lot of baby showers? What about Christmas cards?
Yeah.
Is your mailbox empty?
Interesting.
It's just cold.
I didn't mean to offend her, but apparently. Yeah, it's interesting. She was like, yeah, I mean, shouting it from the rooftops, but at the same time very offended that I would even suggest that she provides prenatal care.
Yeah, because what woman needs
she's
that?
really almost like disdain for the idea. Strange.
So it is, and I want to, as funny as all this is, so from your perspective going through this, and you've obviously dealt with tough stuff as a prosecutor, I remember in one of your emails, you just talked about the nature of just evil that you could feel, and just this isn't a traffic stop gone wrong. It's not even a bank robbery. You know, it's a different level. How was it for you personally after all your legal experience to do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you don't know my background, which I know you do, but I spent a lot of time in the domestic violence unit for Columbia, Missouri, and Boone County when I was a newer prosecutor, and built my career around helping victims, looking in the eyes of women who had been assaulted, who had been victimized, of people who had lost loved ones due to crime. And this had a very similar element in the sense that there was all this loss. The big difference in what is so hard to understand is that you don't have someone coming in saying, you know what, I messed up. I'm wrong. I want to be accountable. I want to plead guilty. I want to take my lumps. Or they're found guilty in a jury trial and they're like, all right, I'm going to take my lumps. No, you have people saying, that's not true. That's not what's happening. They're not only discounting the experience, but they are spitting in the faces of people that are hurting from it. And that was, I'm not saying that didn't happen in prosecution, that I didn't see people that just didn't care what kind of destruction they caused on someone's life, but even some of the most hardened drug dealers and murderers and criminals at some point had that moment of, I had no idea what I did to the victim until they got up and gave their victim impact statement. And that's not really what's going on.
It's just dismissed.
Totally dismissed. And I think that level of loss, that they're so lost, was really overwhelming at times. It was very overwhelming at times, like, you don't even know what you're doing, or you have to be lying to yourself that what you're doing is so awful. And just that complete dismissive and entitlement. I'm entitled to do it. That entitlement was, it definitely wore on me. I was very well prepared. Obviously, God brought me to that moment. He prepared me rigorously in the prosecutor's office. And so I felt prepared for it. But I wouldn't be telling the truth if I didn't say that it didn't weigh on my heart extremely heavy, that I found myself, and we did as a team. Here's the other thing I want to say about the Missouri Attorney Generals. This team, we prayed together. We prayed for the other side. We prayed for us to have presence of mind and professionalism, because it was hard at times when you were dealing with that, to be the more gracious, the professional, to be calm, to be, have presence of mind. And so, like I said, there were some career highlights for me in this, including Catherine Hanaway, the Attorney General now, actually visited the courtroom while I was cross-examining a witness. And so just to have her support there in the courtroom for that case moving forward on behalf of the AG was tremendous.
That's awesome. That's because the original AG, he got promoted by Trump.
He did. Andrew Bailey. I was like, man, don't leave us.
Right.
But then they brought in Catherine Hanaway, who I'm a Missourian. I've lived in Missouri a lot, most of my life. And she was newer into politics when I was a newer lawyer. And so I'd followed her throughout my career. And so I was like, oh, okay, all right, we're okay.
That's awesome. And we, a shout out to our buddy, Senator Josh Hawley. Who you
he's
and
fantastic, yeah.
He's so great. And
he really was.
He was nice to host us. We gave him an update in his office. And he is the guy of, we are going to, we need to get rid of all the abortion pills. We need to, he's just
great.
so solid on everything. Be a great presidential candidate in the future.
Yeah.
So
praise the Lord, we have him as a senator. We've had some strong ones, John Ashcroft and some folks like that through the years that have just been tremendous Christians and pro-life. And
Truman.
Yes.
Truman's considered the most moral president we've ever had, which is a little bit of a flex because he dropped the nukes.
Yeah,
but
right.
It's kind of like this.
He's not messing around.
He's not messing around. That was for sure.
Don't mistake kindness for weakness.
Right. He was a great man. So yeah, you have a lot to be proud of.
We do, and it does go to show that this initiative in Missouri was not the people of Missouri.
Oh, 100%.
This was backed and funded by Planned Parenthood.
It's also important that we fight on this because if they're just going to go around, if they can do this in Missouri, they can do it anywhere.
And they are doing it.
Right. That's the game plan for them. We're going to try to get it in the Constitution of the states where we can, and then we're going to sue in places where we can't and try to pick on these pro-life states. And I think that if you fight back, if you enforce your laws like we're doing here in Texas, we've enforced all of our pro-life laws. It's been fantastic. And so that's just required. You have to stay on it. And, honestly, I mentioned this earlier, Planned Parenthood has a long track record of sort of losing in the public square but winning in the courtroom.
No, that's right.
And that's starting to change because it's not a guarantee that they're not who they used to be in the courtroom. They're also getting, I think, a little lazy. You can't have some doctor on the stand saying a 1-year-old doesn't feel pain.
I don't know why they would allow us, to bring that out.
Right. That's just stupid. That's not smart to have. If this comes up, what are you going to say? Well, a 5-year-old doesn't feel pain.
Right.
Yeah, well, we can't say that.
Right, right.
You got to prepare the guy. They are defeatable.
They are.
For sure.
And I will say, Planned Parenthood Federation of America has their own team of lawyers, right? And they were in force there in Missouri, but they were trading in and out because they were going to Arizona, to Kansas. These same lawyers doing the same things in other states. So you're absolutely correct. That is absolutely what they're doing. This is part of the blueprint of what they have done post-Roe.
And it wasn't until this when I think we first got the report that they were bringing lawyers in for half a day and then a full day and they'd be gone one thing I never thought of is they've probably overextended their legal team nationally, which you witnessed in January with all these people going through. And it's hard to win cases like that. And what lawyers I've learned over the years, they complain about volume. The best lawyer in the world, but if there's just all these cases and knickknacks, and it's like you're a clerk almost meeting all these deadlines and stuff that makes other people glad they're not lawyers. But if you have some rock stars that are focused on destroying somebody, they're going to do it.
They have one lawyer that they send around specifically to combat a couple of the experts that we had. They literally fly in to question or depose those witnesses if they are used in the case. If you have one lawyer and I've deposed you 6 times, 4 times, 6 times, and I've cross-examined you in court, I mean, I know it's hard to understand, but it's like repetitive, right? If you do the same job over and over and over and you find their weaknesses, you're going to look like an absolute rock star. And that did happen some where they were able to just kind of dismantle because they'd had this witness 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And the witness even said, well, I remember when we were in Georgia together. And,
That's funny.
Yeah, I know.
You cut your hair.
Yeah. You look great today.
Right. Yeah. No. Okay. As we wrap up, is there anything you want to say? I mean, one thing I want to say is thank you. And it shows the ILJ does have the back of the volunteers. And in this case, we were asked to go on offense by a great pro-life state. And we were happy to use our resources to defend the great state of Missouri. And I know that our volunteers deeply, appreciate you and Matt and all our wonderful lawyers.
Well, I would say thank you, and thank you, 40 Days for Life, because this is a critical time, and the volunteers should know that we do have their back, and we are out there fighting, and we are able to go and work on these major projects that really do make a difference, and we'll continue to do that. And it is such a blessing to be able to be part of that team.
It's awesome. Your dad would be proud for sure. It's awesome. He would have been in the front row.
He would have.
For sure. Well, thank you, April. And be sure, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see some of the photos that we talked about. And be sure to rate, review, and share this podcast. Also, if you have not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, shame on you. You can do so now. Also, hit the bell so that you get dinged whenever we release these podcasts. You will get them a day early. So thank you. Please send us your feedback at podcast@40daysforlife.com, podcast@40daysforlife.com, and we will see you next time. God bless you.